He returned a millionaire, but what he found shattered him, his twins terrified, and the maid he trusted most tied up and bleeding. What happened inside that house? And why did the woman he loved vanish without a trace? Stay with me, this story takes a shocking turn you won't see coming. Before we begin this powerful story, make sure to subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon, so you never miss any of our inspiring, life-changing content. If this story touches your heart, do not forget to like, comment, and share. This channel is more than just storytelling. Every tale carries a meaningful moral lesson to uplift, inspire, and transform. The millionaire returns and unexpectedly witnesses a cruel truth. The black maid tied with his twins. Rain tapped gently against the tinted windows of the black Escalade as it rolled through the narrow, cracked streets of the neighborhood he once called hell. Gabriel Rose sat motionless in the back seat. His $1,000 suit was perfectly pressed. His cufflinks shimmered with quiet arrogance. But his eyes, they were searching. Haunted. It had been 6 years since he left this place behind. 6 years since he shed poverty, shame, and everything that tied him to the broken boy he once was. He built empires, silenced doubters, climbed every ladder they swore would never hold him. But none of that mattered now. Because the letter, the anonymous letter, said something he could not ignore. Your children are not safe. Come back before it is too late. She is not who you think she is. His heart refused to settle since. The iron gates creaked open to reveal the home he bought for them. A grand 2-story house in the outskirts of Savannah. It was meant to be a gift. A sanctuary. He had handed the keys to his wife, Clarissa, on her birthday. Told her to build the life they once only dreamed of. Told her he would be back, when the deals were signed, when the world finally knelt to his name. He had left her with everything. Wealth. Security. Love. Or so he believed. The car stopped. His driver looked back, uncertain. The mansion stood in eerie silence. No lights. No laughter. No sound of his twin daughters' giggles spilling from the windows like before. Gabriel stepped out. The wind bit through his tailored coat, but it was not the cold that made him shiver. He walked up to the front door, noticing it slightly ajar. Inside, the once pristine foyer smelled of dust and something else. Neglect. He moved slowly, calling out, "Clarissa." No answer. The silence grew louder. As he stepped into the living room, a sound stopped him. A muffled sob. He followed it. Down the hall. To the servants' quarters. The door was closed, but from the other side, he heard whimpers. He pushed it open. And his breath caught in his throat. There, in the corner, bound by coarse rope to an iron radiator, was Miriam, the maid. A kind woman from the Dominican Republic with deep eyes and a deeper soul. But she was not just a maid. She had been family. She had raised the twins when Clarissa was too busy networking. She had cared for Gabriel's ailing mother when no one else would. And now, she was tied up, bruised, bleeding, exhausted. But that was not what shattered him. Clinging to her were his daughters. Their cheeks tear-streaked. Their bodies shaking from cold. One of them had a small bruise beneath her eye. Gabriel dropped to his knees. The twins looked up, unsure, then rushed into his arms. He held them tightly, as if trying to erase the years he had missed. Tears burned down his face. "What happened?" he asked, voice cracking. Miriam looked up, lips trembling. "Sir," she lied. "Clarissa, she left months ago. With another man. She sold everything, and she was going to send the girls away. I stopped her. So she did this to me." Gabriel staggered back. His lungs refused air. His world spun. His wife. The woman he had trusted with his heart. The woman he believed waited faithfully. Gone. And she had betrayed not only him, but his daughters. His family. Miriam, still tied, tried to sit upright. "I did what I could. I stayed because I loved them. I could not let her hurt them." Gabriel looked at her. Her wrists were raw. Her eyes, though weary, still burned with courage. He untied her gently, his hands shaking. "You saved them," he whispered. She winced but nodded.
I tried.
And in that moment, Gabriel realized something.
All the boardrooms,
All the private jets,
all the power,
none of it meant anything. This woman, whom society labeled the help, had more loyalty, love, and bravery than anyone he had ever met. He looked down at his daughters, then back at Miriam,
and something shifted in him. Something permanent. He reached for his phone.
"Get the doctor. Get security. And find Clarissa," he ordered the driver. Then he turned back to Miriam and gently took her hand. "You are not going anywhere. You are family." Her eyes welled with tears. But she said nothing. Because sometimes, the soul understands before the mouth can speak. Outside, the rain poured heavier. Inside, a new beginning was quietly being born. And Gabriel Rowe, the billionaire who once thought he had it all, finally understood the meaning of true wealth. Gabriel stood in the quiet hallway, holding Miriam's frail hand in his palm. His daughters clung to his legs, as if letting go meant returning to the nightmare. His voice trembled with a softness he had not used in years. "You protected them when I failed." Miriam looked away, ashamed. "I did what any mother would do."
Her words pierced him.
Not because they were untrue, but because they were more true than he was ready to admit. He had not been there. He had missed birthdays, fevers, first words. All traded in exchange for power and status. But none of those things had shielded his daughters from cruelty. None of those things had freed Miriam from a dark corner and frayed ropes. His mind raced. Where was Clarissa now? Where had she taken the money? Who was the man she had vanished with? But even those questions faded compared to the one that clung to his soul. Why had he not seen the truth sooner? He looked at Miriam again. The swelling on her lip. The dried blood at her temple. The pain in her ribs, hidden beneath her uniform. He whispered, "You need a hospital."
She shook her head.
"Your daughters need food.
Warmth. Bath. I will wait."
"No," he said firmly, "you will not wait another second."
He stood.
Lifted her gently in his arms. She gasped but did not protest.
She was too tired. Too hurt.
But even in pain, her hand reached back and stroked one of the twins' curls. Gabriel nodded to his driver. "Bring the girls. We are going to St. Augustine Medical." As they stepped outside, the air smelled of wet earth and truth. The rain had slowed to a soft drizzle. The twins curled beside Miriam in the back seat, their tiny hands resting on her knees. Gabriel sat in the front passenger seat, heart pounding with unfamiliar weight. Not the pressure of corporate meetings or billion-dollar deals, but the weight of reality.
And repentance.
He pulled out his phone and dialed. A familiar voice answered. It was the head of his security. "I need you to find Clarissa Rowe," Gabriel said coldly. "Use every resource.
Do not alert the press. Do not approach her yet.
I just need to know where she is." "Yes, sir," the voice replied. Gabriel ended the call.
He looked back again.
Miriam was humming a soft lullaby to the girls. They were asleep against her shoulders. He remembered that melody. It was the same one his mother used to sing on stormy nights. She had taught it to Miriam. Miriam had taught it to his daughters. Generations of love whispered through song. A lump rose in his throat. He turned away before tears betrayed him. The hospital came into view. As they pulled into the emergency bay, a nurse rushed out with a wheelchair. Gabriel stepped out first. Then turned to the nurse. "She is a hero. Treat her like one." The nurse nodded, startled by the gravity in his voice. Inside, doctors ran tests, dressed wounds and reassured Gabriel. "She has some bruised ribs, dehydration, and signs of prolonged restraint. But she will recover with rest and care," the doctor said. Gabriel thanked him, then walked into the room where Miriam lay half asleep. He sat beside her. The twins were now in the next room, eating soup and playing with hospital teddy bears. He reached for Miriam's hand. "From now on, you will live with us. You will never serve again.
You will rest. You will heal.
And when you are ready, I will tell the world who you are." Miriam stirred.
"Who am I?" she asked weakly.
Gabriel met her gaze. The woman who saved my daughters. The woman who reminded me what it means to love.
And maybe. He hesitated.
Then continued, voice low and raw. Maybe the woman who saved me. Miriam looked away, too overwhelmed to speak. In the corridor, the laughter of the twins echoed softly. And in that sterile white room, beneath humming fluorescent lights, something warm and rare began to grow. A bond not born of blood or vows, but of sacrifice. Gabriel stood and walked to the window.
His phone buzzed.
A message from his security team lit the screen. They had found Clarissa. She was in Miami. Under a different name. Living in luxury with a man Gabriel once called a friend. He stared at the screen. The betrayal stung, but no longer surprised him. He knew what he had to do.
Not for revenge. Not for pride. But for justice. For closure. For his daughters. He clenched the phone in his fist. Then looked back at Miriam. And made a silent vow. That no one would ever hurt her again. That the girls would never know fear again. That this was the beginning of the life he was truly meant to build. That night, Gabriel did not return to his penthouse. He stayed in the hospital. Not out of obligation, but out of something far deeper. He sat beside Miriam's bed as she slept, her breathing soft, steady. He watched over his daughters as they lay curled on the couch, blankets wrapped around them like small cocoons of safety. And for the first time in years, he felt still. The storm outside had passed. But the storm within him, the guilt, the regrets, the ache of lost time, it had only begun to clear. In the morning, a nurse entered with breakfast trays. Miriam stirred, blinking at the light, her face pale but peaceful. "You stayed," she whispered.
Gabriel nodded. "You are not alone anymore."
She looked away, her throat tightening.
"I did not know if you would believe me."
"About Clarissa. About what she—"
"I believe you," he interrupted, gently.
"Every word." She looked at him then.
And in that look, he saw everything. The fear she had carried. The strength it took to protect his children. The years of loyalty unnoticed, unpaid, unpraised. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out an envelope.
Thick. Sealed.
"I had this drawn up last night," he said.
"It is a trust.
For you and the girls. I have made you their legal guardian until I settle matters with Clarissa in court. And after that, we will decide together." Miriam shook her head. "I do not want money." Gabriel smiled softly. "It is not about money." He placed the envelope on the bedside table. "It is about honor." She looked at him again, differently this time. As if seeing not the man the world feared, but the man who had finally returned to his soul. "I did not ask to become anything," she said, tears rising. "I just loved them. That was all." "And that," Gabriel replied, "was everything." The twins woke soon after, tumbling into Miriam's arms. Their laughter filled the room. Nurses paused in the hallway to listen. It was the kind of laughter that heals. Later that afternoon, Gabriel stepped outside to take another call. His lawyer's voice came through, clipped and direct. "We have served Clarissa. The assets she attempted to liquidate are frozen. The court date is in 2 weeks. She is unhappy." Gabriel did not flinch. "She will answer for what she did." "Yes," the lawyer agreed. "But there is something else. She has filed a counterclaim. She is attempting to discredit Miriam's actions. Claims she kidnapped the children." Gabriel's jaw tightened. Fury rippled through him, not the reckless kind, but the kind forged in clarity. "She saved them," he said flatly. "And we will prove it." He ended the call and turned to go back inside. But stopped. Standing near the hospital gates was a woman. Dressed in white. Hat pulled low. Watching. He could not see her face clearly. But something in his bones recognized the posture. The stillness. The poison disguised as poise. Clarissa. He stepped forward, but she turned and disappeared into the crowd. She was watching. Waiting. Plotting. And she was not done. Gabriel stood there, fists clenched at his side. Not in fear, but in promise. He would not let her win.
Not again. Not ever.
Inside, Miriam was helping the girls color a page from a children's book. Their giggles rang out again.
He turned back, heart steady.
Because now he knew what he was fighting for.
Not wealth. Not image. But truth. Family. And redemption.
And he would fight with everything he had left. Gabriel walked back into the hospital room with a new fire in his eyes.
But he hid it well.
His daughters ran to him, arms open. He scooped them up, one on each side, their laughter like balm over his bruised soul. Miriam watched from the bed, her hands gently folded over her lap, her smile tired but true. She knew something had shifted in him. Not just his posture, but his purpose. He placed the girls down, crouched beside them, and looked into their wide, trusting eyes. "Daddy is going to fix everything," he whispered. They nodded, not fully understanding, but sensing that something good was coming.
Something safe.
He turned to Miriam next.
"I saw her."
Miriam's eyes narrowed.
"Clarissa."
Gabriel nodded.
"She was outside."
"She left before I could speak to her." Miriam's hands tensed around the blanket.
"She is not finished," she said quietly. "I know," he replied.
"But neither am I." He walked to the window and pulled the curtains slightly open, letting in the golden afternoon light.
"We have 2 weeks," he continued.
2 weeks to prove everything. 2 weeks to protect what matters. Miriam sat up straighter, ignoring the dull ache in her side. "What do you need me to do?" Gabriel turned, his voice soft but commanding.
"Just be honest."
"With the lawyers."
"With the court." "With yourself." She nodded. He walked closer, lowered his voice. "I know what she is capable of. But I also know what you have already survived. You are the strongest person I have ever met." A single tear slid down her cheek, but she said nothing. Strength did not always roar. Sometimes, it whispered in silence. Gabriel's phone buzzed again. This time, a text. From an unknown number. "Tell your little maid to stay silent. Or I'll take them back." Attached was a blurry photo, the twins playing in the hospital playroom. Gabriel's heart stopped. His hands tightened around the phone. Rage simmered in his chest, but he remained still. He did not show the message to Miriam. Not yet. He smiled at her instead. "I am going to speak to the hospital administrator. Make sure we have extra security on this floor." She gave him a puzzled look, but trusted him. Trusted him enough not to ask. He stepped out of the room and walked quickly down the hall, dialing as he moved. "James," he said to his head of security. "Lock down the hospital floor. No visitors without clearance. And bring in 2 of our private men, armed. I want eyes on every corner. I just received a threat." There was a long pause on the other end. Then, understood. Gabriel ended the call. Leaned against the cool wall of the corridor. Closed his eyes. For years, he had fought in boardrooms and behind glass towers. But now, the fight was real. It was not for stocks or control or pride. It was for them. The girls. Miriam. The kind of love he never knew he needed until he almost lost it. And this time, he would not lose. He opened his eyes. And walked back into the room. His daughters ran to him again. Miriam looked up, her eyes searching his face. He smiled at them all. But deep inside, he was already preparing for war. A quiet war. One fought not with violence, but with truth. And justice. And the one thing Clarissa never understood. Love can be stronger than vengeance. That evening, a soft hush fell over the hospital. Security guards in plain clothes took quiet positions at each end of the hallway. Cameras had been installed outside the door to room 209, Miriam's room. Gabriel ensured the staff were informed without being alarmed. The girls were given new stuffed animals by the hospital counselor. They named them Hope and Brave. Fitting. Inside the room, Gabriel sat beside Miriam once again. She had changed into a clean gown. Her hair had been brushed by the nurses. But her eyes were still heavy with questions. He finally showed her the message.
Her hands trembled as she read it.
And then she looked up. Not in fear, but in defiance.
"She is not taking them," she said, her voice calm. "She will try," Gabriel replied, "but she will fail."
He lowered his voice.
"I am bringing in a private investigator. One who works with survivors. He will build the case around what Clarissa did."
Miriam hesitated.
"There are things I never told you." Gabriel leaned closer. "I need to know everything, no matter how painful." She looked down at her hands, as if they held the memories.
"She had a man," Miriam began.
"Long before you left for Europe. He would visit when you were away. At first, I thought it was harmless.
A friend.
But the girls were afraid of him." Gabriel clenched his jaw. She called him Uncle Darren. Said he was there to help.
But he would yell. He drank.
"Once, I saw him grab little Eva's arm too hard."
She cried. Clarissa laughed.
Gabriel's knuckles turned white. "She told me to stay out of it. Said I was just the help." Miriam's voice cracked. "I stayed because I thought you would come back. I thought maybe you would see."
He closed his eyes.
Guilt wrapped itself around his chest like a vice. "I am sorry," he said. "I should have never left you all alone with her."
"You did not know," she replied.
"But now you do. And you are here." That night, Gabriel did not sleep. He sat by the window, staring into the city lights below, thinking of how many things he had missed while chasing the world. In the quiet dark, he made a list on his phone. Every person Clarissa had spoken to. Every nanny they had fired. Every hospital visit. Every school record. He would gather it all. He would prove it all.
And then, he would win it all back.
By morning, the investigator arrived. A tall, gray-haired man with tired eyes but a razor-sharp mind. He took Miriam's statement, recorded every detail. He requested the girl's pediatric files. He began building the story, not just of neglect, but of long-term emotional abuse. Later that day, the girls drew pictures for Miriam. Crayon hearts and crooked smiles. One of them, little Eva, drew a stick-figure family. There was a tall man, a woman with dark curly hair, and two tiny girls. Gabriel looked closer. "Where is Mommy?" he asked gently. Eva looked up and said, "She is not in our family anymore. Miss Miri is." Gabriel looked at Miriam. Her lips parted slightly. She looked at the picture, at the child. Then, at Gabriel. And something shifted again, slowly, beautifully, painfully. The bond was no longer silent. It had a name now. A face. A future. Outside, the sky had begun to darken again. Rain clouds gathered over Savannah like old secrets waiting to fall. But inside that hospital room, a new family was quietly growing stronger. And far away, in a rented condo in Miami, Clarissa Rose stood by a window of her own. Glass of champagne in one hand. Her lips curled into a smile as she read the latest court summons. "Well played, Gabriel," she murmured. "But I have not lost yet." She turned to the man lounging on the couch behind her. "Darren. Time to make a little mess." Back in Savannah, Gabriel received a new message. "The past you left behind is coming home. And it does not knock before entering." He stared at the screen. Then looked at his daughters. At Miriam. And whispered to himself, "Let it come." 2 months later, the courtroom fell into a hushed silence as the judge reviewed the final documents. Stacks of evidence lay before him. School records, medical reports, testimonies, hidden camera footage from the house. But the most powerful evidence had not been on paper. It had been Miriam's voice. Steady. Wounded. But never bitter. And it had been the quiet way the twins clung to her during the family evaluation. How they ran to her arms, how they wept when the session ended. Clarissa sat across the room, her features cold, her beauty hardened by entitlement. Beside her, Darren looked disheveled, cornered by charges of endangerment and emotional abuse. His lawyer no longer spoke for him. Because there was nothing left to defend. Gabriel sat beside Miriam, not as a savior, but as a man who had returned home from a long, costly journey. He had not come back to reclaim power. He had come back to reclaim purpose. The judge finally spoke. This court recognizes the extraordinary devotion, sacrifice, and protection provided by Miss Miriam Rosario to the children of this family. Legal guardianship is hereby granted permanently to Miss Rosario and Mr. Gabriel Rowe, who have shown not only financial stability, but emotional integrity and moral responsibility.
He looked toward Clarissa.
Mrs. Rowe, your parental rights are terminated, effective immediately. Clarissa rose from her seat, shaking her head.
This is madness, she hissed.
Gabriel stood, eyes calm.
No, he said. This is justice.
Outside the courthouse, a crowd had gathered. Reporters shouted questions. But Gabriel shielded the girls with his coat, one arm wrapped gently around Miriam's waist. They walked past the cameras, past the noise, into the sunlight.
Into freedom.
Weeks later, the family moved into a quiet estate just outside Charleston. Not the mansion Clarissa once flaunted, but a place filled with laughter, paint-streaked walls, bedtime stories, and warm meals. The girls thrived. Miriam began her own foundation, helping immigrant caregivers and nannies receive legal protection and access to education. Gabriel supported her fully. But he stayed in the background. He no longer needed the spotlight. Because real success, he had learned, was measured not in millions, but in moments.
Moments of love. Moments of truth.
Moments of healing.
Moral lesson.
Sometimes, the people the world overlooks are the ones holding it together. True wealth is not power nor luxury, it is character. And the greatest legacy is not what we build with money, but what we build with love. When life tears us apart, it is never too late to return, rebuild and rise, not as who we were, but as who we were always meant to become. Because home is not made of bricks and gold. It is made of trust,
of forgiveness,
of those who stayed when everyone else walked away.
And sometimes,
the most powerful family is not the one we are born into,
but the one we fight for.
Thank you for listening to this heartfelt story. If it moved you, share it, comment below, and let someone know. You are never alone.